Over the past 30 years, Freetown has grown to a city of almost 1 million people. Our research focuses on Moyiba, one of Freetown's rapidly growing informal settlements in the eastern hillsides. Originally a small farming community named Kamada Farm, Moyiba's growth into the hillside was marked by the introduction of a quarry in 1966 and the Civil War. Despite the formal quarry closing during the Civil War, stone mining continued to grow, and it is now the main livelihood activity. Moyiba's role as a key source of cheap labor and stone has created an unequal relationship with Freetown, leaving the hillside settlement to deal with the externalities and receiving few direct benefits. Local management structures intent on regulating the access and usage of common resources have not been able to keep up with the increased demand for land, water, and stone. The inconsistencies in management, from open access to private, has made it difficult to protect these resources and guarantee equitable access. For example, as people claim land in the upper areas, they're often not adhering to the bylaws established for protection of common environmental goods and minimizing risk, which can lead to erosion and contamination of water sources for those within other parts of the settlement. As with other areas located within the eastern part of the city, Moyiba is not connected to the Guma Valley water supply network. Kissi Brook, the stream that flows through Moyiba, is unsafe for consumption. Open defecation, waste disposal, and upstream washing practices pollute the water source, which then flows into downhill settlement Kissi Brook and out into the ocean through Klein Bay. We mapped the three main sources of water, taps, springs, and wells, to obtain a better spatial understanding of differences in access. In 2008, the NGO ACF worked with residents to construct a decentralized treated water system made up of a dam and 47 taps, and to establish a wash management committee. Originally, it was meant to be a reliable source of drinking water through filtration and chlorine, yet due to conflicts over land, only 26 of the taps in the downhill area are operational and their quality is unreliable.
Sometimes it's strange. Sometimes it came purely. You see the water very clean. Sometimes it came so darkish.
The other two sources are wells and springs. Perceptions around the quality of these sources determine if it is used for household use or drinking. Cost of all sources differ depending on location, type of source, and quality. To access drinking water, residents downhill have multiple options, as water is brought into the community in packaged bundles or from tankers. Residents uphill depend on wells and springs, as these tankers rarely make the trip to the top. The uncoordinated management of these sources of water is contributing to the overall depletion of the common water resource. For example, as people claim land and construct private wells, the overall water availability in the spring is reduced, while the practices of stone mining are reducing the quality of the water. By contrasting the management of the renewable resource of water with the non-renewable resource of stone, we have been able to recognize how both systems undermine practices to access the other and contribute to the accumulation of risk. In the absence of formal regulation, residents have developed a complex system for managing informal stone mining, which is primarily happening in the upper areas of the settlement. This diagram shows the actors in the stone mining value chain. Men, women, and children all work in stone mining, with clear gendered divisions in labor at each stage of the process. Stone miners and rock breakers operate under community bylaws enforced by the CBO NAC force and community elders around the quarry, and by chiefs and private landowners outside the quarry. These rules are designed to regulate the work, settle disputes, prevent mining in sensitive sites such as road mining, and encourage appropriate behavior. The informality of these rules has led to uneven enforcement across the settlement, leaving under-regulated areas vulnerable to erosion and encouraging encroachment on forested areas. Erosion causes unstable conditions, increasing the risk of landslides, rockfalls, and mudslides, and increasing silt loads and runoff during the rainy season, contaminating streams and wells, and blocking drainage channels. Less vegetation also leads to diminished water retention and replenishing of aquifers. Although Moyiba has been recognized by Freetown City Council as an area particularly at risk for landslides and subsequent building collapse, this is not translated into policy action, with strategies for the wider planning zone not recognizing the specific local conditions. However, Freetown's new mayor, Yvonne Aki Sawyer, has pledged to work neighborhood by neighborhood to develop locally driven transformation plans. This commitment from the new mayor comes at a time of political change for Moyiba, with the election of the Honorable Momo Kamara into parliament. Originally from Moyiba, he is a well-respected leader among the community, and this change in political representation presents an opportunity to amplify Moyiba's political voice and give citizens a platform for their concerns and ideas. The upcoming development of a local action plan for Moyiba by FCC, ASF, and SLRC is in response to the need to involve communities in Freetown City Council's structural plan. Local action area planning brings together a broad range of people to the planning process, generates new ideas about space and place, and builds in local level priorities within the city's growth in order to guarantee an equitable urban development. As a way to inform this process, we facilitated a visioning process with members of the community to identify strategic entry points in order to achieve a reintegrated and connected Moyiba.
In 20 years' time.
How you want to see it?
Well, I want to see markets in Moyiba. I want to see good streets in Moyiba. I want to see good education in Moyiba. I want to see factories in Moyiba.
Therefore, we propose an environmentally just approach to local action planning that unites Moyiba under a communal vision and reshapes its relationship with Freetown under improved circumstances not rooted in resource exploitation. The plan can be subdivided into 4 components that feed into each other: collective mobilization, improved infrastructure and services, livelihood diversification, and environmental rehabilitation. Community collective mobilization is a foundational step. Our intent is for improved communication to lead to collaboration and knowledge sharing that enhances the coping capacity of all residents in CBOs. The strategy includes the creation of a local radio station, a revised community-based disaster risk management committee, and integrated knowledge sharing through the formation of a liaison group. The goal of Moyiba Radio is to streamline and open communication by utilizing the existing megaphone systems. By setting a schedule and identifying outreach areas, messages reinforcing bylaws, sharing community programming, and encouraging positive risk mitigation practices can reach a wider audience, such as women who are often excluded through the usual channels of communication. Through our research, we identified multiple groups working around sensitization of disaster risk. Although the ONS was originally involved in the formation of the Community-Based Disaster Risk Management Committee, the committee has not received continued support. Our restructuring and consolidation of the multiple groups into a single Community-Based Disaster Risk Management Committee with increased leverage and enforcement capacity will serve to coordinate risk mitigation efforts. A better spatial record of risk-prone areas within Moyiba will support these actions and can be collected through mapping processes by the Risk Committee. The liaison group will be assembled from members of existing CBOs and operate as the main point of contact and exchange with government officials, NGOs, and other communities. The second component to our plan is a strategy for improved infrastructure and services in conjunction with zoning for environmental rehabilitation to ensure improvements to infrastructure do not compromise the management of the environment and contribute to the production of new risks. Throughout our fieldwork, many of the individuals we interviewed or surveyed prioritized the various difficulties and risks associated with the poor condition of the road and the lack of safe pathways as a main concern, regardless of their location in the settlement. Despite the fact that home and land ownership is much higher in the upper areas of Moyiba, the coping capacity of those in the higher areas is lower because of diminished connectivity to proper infrastructure. An example of this is the distance residents at the top of the settlement have to travel for basic needs. On average, someone who lives or works around the pit area in the quarry must carry their jerry cans at least 840 meters to access water, only to then have to carry the full cans back up the steep, unpaved access road. Additionally, the closest health clinic is at least 2 kilometers away from the top of the settlement or pit, making it very challenging for stone breakers or residents of the uphill area, particularly pregnant women, to access health services. The improvement of infrastructure and services relies on multiple sub-strategies. The first is to improve and secure the existing water infrastructure. By embedding community leaders within the oncoming processes to map and inventory decentralized water points by the Guma Valley Water Company, Ministry of Works, and FCC, will allow for community input to upgrade planning and setting of operating parameters. Furthermore, land titles should be secured for existing water service infrastructure to protect it from damage from processes of land grabbing and construction. The second focuses on improved mobility and drainage through the rebuilding of the existing access road and drainage systems, while also identifying and establishing connection pathways within the settlement, as having defined pathways will reduce congestion, improve safety, limit erosion, and improve waste removal. Community advocacy and improved accessibility can promote the building of communal spaces that serve multiple purposes, including capacity building workshops, social events, or community gatherings, along with the construction of a new health clinic in the upper area of Moyiba in order to facilitate residents' access to health services. Key partners for this strategy would be the Municipal Engineering Council, who is currently charged with civil works and public spaces for the city's development plans and could provide guidance, resources, and funding for improving and extending infrastructure, as well as the Ministry of Works and Sierra Leone Roads Authority, who are responsible for the implementation of road improvements. Livelihood diversification that moves away from extractive and dangerous forms of employment is necessary in order to disrupt the environmental degradation happening in Moyiba and increase the economic resilience and well-being of residents. New livelihood opportunities can be facilitated by increased vocational training, the promotion of new industry such as urban agriculture, and the production and sale of compost. These steps should be complemented by processes outside of Moyiba that are working to assess market opportunities and support local initiatives. Moyiba residents can align themselves with upcoming marketing opportunities such as the sale of compost and agricultural products, as identified in the 2013 Compost Market Assessment Report. Stone mining is considered an activity of last resort, and there is great interest in skill training opportunities.
With these technical vocational centers like dioxide materials, tailoring machines like that.
The dependency on stone, a non-renewable resource with harmful health and environmental risk, means residents are exposing themselves to additional risk and are at the mercy of the market for very limited economic return. The CBO NAC Force has stepped in to provide some financial support for members that are injured on the job, but cannot provide alternative sources of income in case of serious injury. From our research and interviews, we were unable to find any programs providing training in Moyiba, but believe that increased regulation of stone mining activities outside of the quarry, creation of new community spaces, and political will can work together to attract NGOs offering vocational training in other areas of Freetown. The small but noticeable declining trend in stone mining and an increase in competition of land for housing can also be capitalized on and used to notify NGOs and government training programs of the need to support livelihood diversification in Moyiba. Several NGOs such as YMCA, UNDP, and the Practical Tools Initiative already offer low-cost or free entrepreneurial trainings in everything from soap making to computer studies. As a first step to accessing these trainings already available, we suggest establishing a community fund for covering the cost of individuals to travel and receive training outside of Moyiba. In exchange, those that receive training can then engage in peer-to-peer teaching and share new skills with the community. The final component sets a goal of environmental rehabilitation by focusing on redressing environmental degradation which has occurred as a result of resource exploitation, including deforestation and stone mining, the unregulated claiming of land, and the increasing waste problem. We propose a zoning process in partnership with the FCC and Ministry of Lands that identifies key zones for concentrating residential housing, zones to rehabilitate, and no-build high-risk areas. Residents from across the settlement should be at the center of this process in order to recognize the specific needs of each area. Workshops held on community mapping, watershed management, and environmental education can support this process and incentivize long-term buy-in. A reforestation team should be formed to bolster existing community bylaws around tree planting and soil remediation. Reforestation and the use of compost can improve soil structure, increase water retention, and provide shade and fruit crop. This will also reduce flooding and limit road damage during the wet season. Environmental rehabilitation builds on the previous phases by using collective action to further the impact of these practices. As Moyiba continues to grow, it is becoming particularly important to have a local action plan that reintegrates Moyiba into Freetown under improved circumstances not rooted in resource exploitation, and builds a communal vision for a just and green Moyiba. We hope our analysis and strategies can begin to pave the way for community, nonprofit, and political action that address risk cycles while improving the conditions of residents.